Well, as we head towards the 2024 general elections, today on Media and Society, we discuss the importance of election training for journalists and media practitioners. Well, hello and welcome to Media and Society. I am your host, Naledi Muleo. Of course, this is the show where we take a look at the intersection between the media and society. As usual, as you know, the show really is not complete without your input. So over the next hour, feel free to give us a call on 011-714-0661 or 0662. This is our discussion for this morning. 2024 promises to be an exceptionally vibrant year for political news, especially with the impending general elections. As South Africa takes bolder strides on the political stage, it becomes imperative now more than ever for our media practitioners at every level to be highly proficient. They must be able to disseminate intricate political concepts, presenting them to the public in a manner that is both accurate and unbiased, but also they must be able to ensure simplicity so that the viewer understands what's happening in our political landscape. This approach, of course, ensures that everyone can readily comprehend and engage the information that is being given to them. So to have that discussion this morning, we are joined by various guests representing the media industry where it speaks directly to our people. We're joined via Teams by Ewald Mokoditoa, who is the news editor at Makhado FM. Thank you so much for joining us, Ewald. We really appreciate your time.
Good morning, lady, and good morning to the viewers of SABC.
All right, great to have you with us. Next to him on the screen, there's Emelita Nyalungu, who is the head of news at Radio Bushbuckridge. Emelita, good morning to you and welcome to Media and Society.
Good morning, and thank you for welcoming me, and also to your viewers.
Really good to have you with us. We also have a few guests in studio with us. We have with us Mpheni Tshivhase, who's the news editor at Rainbow FM. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're all matching in the black here.
Yeah.
Some of us got
the memo.
Good to have you with us. And we're also joined by Jabulile Mazibuko, who's talk show presenter at Radio Veritas. Thank you so much for being in studio with us. We really do appreciate it.
You're welcome, and good morning to you and the listeners. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Ms. Shoeshoe Qhu, who is the CEO of MDDA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Khotson lady and khotson to the viewers at home. Thank you very much for having us.
A really great pleasure to have you with us. And perhaps we should start with you to just give us an introduction as to the work of the MDDA for a lot of South Africans that don't understand what the MDDA is actually mandated with doing, and then we'll expand the discussion.
Thank you, Naledi. So the MDDA is a body of statute. We have very clear and very, I think, an important mandate in the South African media landscape that we need to fulfill. And we've focused in capacitating community radio stations through training, development, as we've done, and you will see and hear in this discussion today. I think many people, particularly those in the community radio sector, will know us for grant funding for the industry and supporting them, and also assisting when necessary also to ensure that the stations are able to pay Centec for transmission fees. So there's a lot of areas where we are able to do our work, but we aren't only able to do this independently, so as to speak, that we do have partners, particularly your mainstream media organizations that support us through a funding that they pay as a levy, but we also have a desperate need for as an organization to grow that funding money that we are able to get. So we need to start exploring other opportunities, because we are recognizing, and I'm sure colleagues here we are speaking or we are in conversation with will say what some of their limitations are in them being able to meet their own objectives as community broadcasters and community media houses. So it's really very important for us to envision a society where the community media sector sector plays a pivotal role, and it's sustainable, and that's the center of the work that we do. We are anchored by that as the MDDA.
Let's talk a little bit about what that community radio landscape actually looks like. I think at a national platform like this, one would easily think, okay, when we talk about radio, we're going to be speaking about those big national platforms, some of them housed under the SABC, where radio is concerned. But the impact of community radio was something that I think really needs to be talked about, right? How many radio stations are we looking at across the country that have direct links to their community and operate in those communities, and how impactful are those platforms?
So currently we have over 200 and perhaps up to 270 and more community radio stations in the country. What we really need to get into, and this is the biggest or widest network of community broadcasters in the world if we compare to other countries. So you could say that when we look at a society like South Africa and how community media and radio stations have really come to life and played their role in ensuring that community members also have a voice. It is great to have a platform like the SABC. We are here now, but for someone who's in Moleji or in Makhado, they need to be able to access information, preferably in a language that they can understand, that they can resonate in. And yes, the SABC has a bouquet of these stations, but the level of resonance that communities have and the level of accountability on the part of the community radio producers and content creators is so heightened because they live in those communities themselves.
Yes.
They are telling the stories of the people of where they come from. And for me, that's something that's very important, and we can't take away from it. And I do think that we absolutely need to reinvest. We are certainly committed as the MDDA in ensuring that we move towards a sustainable community media industry in the country. And that's some of the challenges that we are needing to deal with as we get into these 30 years of democracy as a country, and 30 years since we licensed community radio stations and they moved from their pirated versions of broadcast.
Yeah, they've got, and all of you guys obviously have a massive responsibility as we go into 2024. A lot of people have said that this election that we're going into this year might very well be as important as the 1994 elections. And we need to then talk about, you know, how difficult or easy it has been for you to communicate that with the community. Perhaps, Mpheni, let's start with you. Talk to us about the work that you're doing at Rainbow FM, how that's looking, the discussion of these general elections at local level. How are you having them, and what are you hearing, particularly from the community?
Oh, indeed. It is like we're taking it back to 1994, because 30 years down the line, there's still a lot that needs to be done, right? So we have a team of about 20 journalists that we would love to send on the ground and hear what the people think and what are people feeling on the ground. However, we are limited, right? We are restricted to a certain point. We do engage with the young ones. We do engage with the youth, and to find out where are they, you know, mentally. Are they going to register? Are they going to vote? Are they excited about voting? And most of the time you find that people are not going to vote, right? And you ask them, you probe, why are you not going to vote? And they tell you, what difference is it going to make? But here we are in the ground, and we need to educate them more. We need to give them information that your vote is your voice. At the end of the day, you need to do the right thing, and then you need to vote. Yes.
Yes, Chabu, is the same question. I mean, how are you having the discussions around the upcoming elections at Radio Veritas? And what are you hearing from people that are speaking directly to you? Because I've also found, and I have the background of community radio myself, having come from the likes of Alex FM, people are really quite honest because they feel at home in their community radio stations.
Yeah, I think Mpheni took the words right out of my mouth. You know, our focus at Radio Veritas rather, it's mainly on the youth. For an example, yesterday they had a show already talking about the elections. What we've picked up from Radio Veritas is that most of the youth is really not prepared. What we hear from the ground is that, what difference is it going to make if I vote? Now, our intention is to share training with the community. The thing is, we do not really have resources to go out. But what we do at Radio Veritas is that we use media, technology, like we use our WhatsApp, we use Zoom. We are a very small radio station, however, we're very broad because we use technology, we use Zoom for our shows. So we've got presenters and producers from KwaZulu-Natal, we've got from Rustenburg. So our community is very large. So we will be having workshops from time to time, especially towards the election. And just now with the registrations, we are planning to have workshops so that we encourage and educate the youth that it is their voice, like Mpheni said. Their vote is their voice. And again, with the training, we've realized that our elections are always free and fair. So out there, people feel elections are not free and fair. They feel if they don't vote, it's the same, it will go to a certain party. But we feel that this is the education that we need to give our people in our community.
Here's the thing, we're hearing from the IEC that we might very well have a booklet for, a ballot paper, and that's the sort of thing we need to be communicating with community members as well about, wow, your options are so much wider than what they've ever been, and we'll get to how you do that successfully by giving everyone a chance when there are so many candidates now on the list. But Emelita, let me bring you in here at Radio Bushbuck Ridge. What are you hearing from the community in Mpumalanga? Is there an interest in the elections? Is there an understanding of what this 2024 ballot paper is going to look like? And how are you really working to tell that story? Do you focus more on your local politics, perhaps your provincial politics? How do you handle it?
Thank you very much again for welcoming me. I agree with my sister there when we say, as a community radio stations, we are facing many challenges. So when we're on the field, many people that complain, especially youth, where they're lacking employment. Remember, unemployment the statistics is very high. So people will say we can't vote because we don't see any changes, especially at the municipalities. We don't get service deliveries. So how come we vote? So it might be a challenge for us, especially as journalists. We are still young. We are still expressing how to do our work at the field. So some of the challenges that we are meeting, it says, no, we can't talk to you as a journalist. Even the bullying at field, sometimes we find ourselves in there. So it's very difficult for us, especially my sister says we are lacking the resources. As a community radio, we depend on adverts. We depend. If you don't have an advert or you don't have a live broadcast, then that means we will struggle more because remember, as a community radio, we are the voice of the voiceless, and we can able to knock doors where the community can't. So if us as a journalist or if us as news team, we are facing this kind of challenge, and then it becomes more difficult. As I remember when I was attending the training in Johannesburg, we even asked the MDDA to talk to the office, says, please organize the meeting with the community radio so we can raise our issues to the relevant offices. So that's one of the challenges that we met as the journalists in the field. So sometimes when we go to the field, when we want a comment, or sometimes they tell you no comment, and then if you push hard, then we end up get hurt. That's how we met some of the challenges.
Yeah, and that's really a bigger as well journalistic challenge as well, that of safety. Ewald, do you want to step in there and just talk to us about some of the challenges that you're facing, particularly in communicating the general elections that are upcoming, and also what you're hearing yourself, where community members are involved at Makhado FM?
Thank you, Naledi. Look, what we're hearing on the ground is that there's a lot of political parties that are around. People are not really sure as to who to vote for. And one thing I've picked up, or we picked up as a news team, is that there's a lot of investment from political parties with regards to political education to people who are already voters, and not much resource was used for people who have not voted before or people who don't want to vote. We've spoken to a number of political parties around here. We engage with them to say, guys, what are you doing to educate the people about voting, and also to ensure that everybody has a collective vote, because their focus mainly is on people who are already voting. We do have a number of challenges that we are facing as a station, but I believe because in the community media space, we are flexible. We're allowed to do anything. We work with NGOs, civil society groups that assist us in terms of also disseminating information. We do a lot of partnerships with NGOs and civil societies to say, look, let's do a program to talk to the challenges that we have as a station. Where we lack, we go to a particular stakeholder to say, look, we've got a shortage of 1, 2, and 3. Can you assist? That is how we are able to address our challenges. But what I've picked up is that, yes, people want to vote, but they're not really sure as to who to vote for. When you speak to the elderly, they already know who they're going to vote for. But a lot of young people are saying there's a lot of political parties. And it looks like the education is more towards the election. And I think it should be something that should be done throughout. It shouldn't be that now we're going to politics, now we're going to general elections. Let's start with our political education. That is what we have picked up on the ground.
Yeah, there's so much to get into, because and I want to move to a part where it gets particularly, I suppose, technical now, Shoeshoe, if you'll allow me, because one of the things that we're going to be seeing as we get closer and closer to the election is going to be the skills issue certainly going to come up. Are our journalists in community radio stations skilled enough to really understand even just the mathematics that goes into these elections, right? I mean, there was, of course, the Constitutional Court having ruled that only 1,000 signatures are required for independent candidates to contest elections, which of course broadens the base, which means we're going to have more independent candidates. And then there's the discussion around how you split the seats when we get to the National Assembly or the provincial legislatures. Those are all very, very technical things. So how has the MDDA tried to deal with that skills gap that we have? Because the reality is that some of our community radio stations, you have people that are really at the very beginning of their careers and may not be as technically skilled as we'd like them to be.
That's true, Naledi. I think the upcoming elections are going to really require agile journalists who are going to be, because what will happen there will be unprecedented, particularly relating to the independent candidates. However, the MDDAs ran workshops. There was the workshops that were done here in Johannesburg to include all of the stations that are inland. We then did the coastal stations, and we've now only got one workshop that's left, where we are going to cover KZN because we had the majority of number of participants there. And in these workshops that we've done, we've brought in experts who not only understand the electoral code, but also understand an expectation of what a journalist needs to know in covering the elections. So we have done these workshops, and I am hoping that we have at least built that base capacity level where the journalists, even at the community radio sector, have got an understanding of what their role is in covering the elections. Yeah. With that said, though, is that one of the other challenges within the community radio sector, and some colleagues have raised here, is that they don't always have access to the expert voices, because they're also competing with the SABC and the rest of the other media houses that are out there. So we really need to also get your opinion makers, the expert or those who hold expert views on subjects, to also understand why it is important to engage with community radio stations, because they too have a very important role to play towards ensuring that people understand what they are voting for and understand the possible outcomes based on them exercising their civic duty.
Absolutely. You can't have the political analysts and professors speaking only English on national platforms news and not speaking directly to the electorate that for the most part does not speak in that way. And we're going to expand the discussion a little bit more on the other side of this short break. We'll also talk a little bit about how the symbiotic relationship between communities, community radios, radio stations, and some of these candidates that are vying for these leadership positions really need to be working, right? How do the politicians leverage community radio stations, and how do communities speak about their challenges that they need addressed on these very platforms? Give us a call as well, 011-714-0661. We're back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to Media and Society. So in this dynamic political landscape of South Africa, the current year marks an unprecedented surge in the number of political parties and independent candidates on the ballot box. This evolving political narrative with its intricate nuances poses a unique set of challenges, particularly for small media organizations. They, of course, need to be navigating some of the mountains of information generated by the diverse array of parties, really becoming a formidable task. So we continue our conversation about just how community media really can help to disseminate some of the information as we get closer and closer to those general elections. I am, of course, still joined by Ewald Mokoditoa, who is news editor at Makhado FM, Emelita Nyalungu, who is the head of news at Radio Bushbuck Ridge. We're now also joined by Maseko, who is a journalist at Bethlehem News Spot. Still in studio with Mpheni Tshivhase, news editor at Rainbow FM, Jabulile Mazibuko, talk show presenter at Radio Veritas, as well as Shoeshoe Qhu, who is the CEO of MDDA. I know you've just joined us, so perhaps we start off with you, but I am going to move on with the discussion. You can briefly talk to us about the work that you're doing at Bethlehem News Spot, but I'm keen to hear from you as we move forward with the discussion. How much interest has your platform, Bethlehem News Spot, actually gotten from the politicians themselves? I mean, have you had people reach out and say, let me speak to your listeners about what my political party or why my manifesto offers them?
Thank you very much, and greetings to your viewers there. And sorry for joining late, but if I can just be brief about Bethlehem News Spot, it's basically a media company, a community media company, where we actually offer them on straight news. Like immediately when they're happening, we're usually popular with the live videos. We'll give them live videos, and we make sure that we also involve the community in our news, in our information that we provide. We provide the needs, everything that they actually need. So we make sure that we check out and find out what they need. But regarding the politicians, the different political parties, now we have a lot of political parties, especially in my area. I've seen those that I haven't even seen around. They've been approaching us, of course, looking for exposure. Some will try to just soften you up so that they can just get the juice out of you, so that they can tell you that, we're going to be doing this and this and this year. So please, when you get time to provide us or give us platform to talk to your viewers about the elections and about us in specific, those political parties, they have approached us. So I just told them that, we're almost there. We'll give all of them a platform to talk about their political parties. So basically, yes, they have approached us.
Okay, that's interesting. Are you having the same sort of interest from political parties and candidates?
No. We have reached out to political parties asking for them to come and talk to the people on the ground, because, as you said, people understand better when you communicate with them in their language that they're comfortable with, but no response as in yet. They are always busy. Yet you see the very same person doing an interview in a more national platform. And you ask yourself, why did you not come through when I made that invitation?
Can you talk a little bit about the missed opportunity there, right? And Trisha, perhaps this is for you. Where is the missed opportunity there? Because surely, an independent candidate or political party could easily think, well, Naledi on a national platform speaks to a broader range of people. I see a community radio station saying, well, you can speak directly to the subgroup that you may be appealing to.
Yeah, so I think to all of us sitting here, you also coming from a community background and community broadcasting background, and myself coming from that background, it is obvious that if you wanted to speak to a community, you will go to that community media, you'll go to the community radio station. I don't think perhaps it's the work that we still need to do in making political parties understand the importance of sharing their election manifestos, for example, with colleagues who are at these community radio stations and community media houses, and even the small medium broadcast houses that are coming up with the reduced cost in setting up studios. I do think that there is some kind of attraction to being on a national platform and being on television, like being on the SABC, compared to being on the ground, so as to speak. I do think, however, that we have seen some political parties make effort in inviting journalists who come from community media houses. Again, as they mentioned, it's a matter of, will we afford to go and broadcast from a manifesto launch of a political party in a particular area where we don't have resources to be able to carry that broadcast? And often you'll find that established or mainstream media would be funding those out of their own budgets. So they would have a budget that they've allocated for elections. Now, think about being a community radio station like Veritas FM. You are currently trying to make means end. In fact, you are trying to pay for transmission to Centec. You are trying to pay stipends to the volunteers that work at the station. You're trying to keep things going. If you have to make a decision between maintaining the broadcasting at the station and also sending journalists out on the field with resources that are limited, often they're placed in a corner where they depend on national media sometimes to be able to deliver on their mandate. And I want to challenge the sector that you need to get to a place where you are feeding news to the national broadcasters, that if there is an election manifesto that is happening in the Florida or that side of Rudeport of Johannesburg, that they come to you. If there is something that is of interest in Makhado, the SABC should be getting that story from Makhado. We need to get to that level where the role of community media is realized, not just by us in the sector, but also including those who are users or stakeholders like your political parties and including other media owners and broadcasters.
Yeah, because there's an opportunity there for a bottom-up sort of information dissemination, which I think is beautiful. But Jabulile, let's come to you and talk about, firstly, that same question. Have you got the interest from the candidates and political parties, or are they simply not seeing Radio Veritas as a worthy platform for them to campaign? And then, of course, you can talk a little bit about how you actually maneuver the situation of going, well, there are so many candidates and I've got the responsibility as a media house to give equal coverage to as many as possible. How do you manage that?
To be quite honest with you, we haven't been approached. And after our training, what we did, we spoke to management, and we then said, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to have workshops within the radio station itself. Like Shoeshoe has mentioned, with resources and us having to manage paying Centec, and that we really do not have a budget. However, we are planning that. What we mentioned to management was that while we were at the training as media practitioners, we mentioned that we need to help each other as community radio stations. So the plan was, right here at the beginning of the year 2024, we try and maneuver, contact other radio practitioners, the community radio practitioners that we were with at the training, to hear if they have been contacted, and then is there anything that they can share with us so that we are able to contact certain political parties so that we bring them in to Radio Veritas, because we really cannot go out since we really are struggling financially. But just thanks to MDDA, they are coming through for us with regards to that in terms of helping.
Yeah, so I want to open lines. Of course, give us a call on 011-714-0661. Take a look at the work that is being done by the community radio station where you live, right? Do you feel that particular platform is able, proficient enough to be able to bring you the election information that you need to be getting as we get closer and closer to those all-important general elections? Give us a call, 011-714-0661. I want to bring Ewald in this one because, Ewald, one of the big challenges that we are going to have, and this is now not just community radio stations, but also at a national level, is reminding ourselves as media practitioners to speak not just about the personalities behind the political parties and the independent candidates, but the manifestos, right? The policies that they're putting forward, how they aim to improve people's lives. I mean, How difficult of the thing is that going to be to maneuver? And perhaps you can answer it from both sides. Are community members interested in hearing, the policies of a political party, or are they interested more in the personalities?
Thank you very much. Look, with the engagements we've done with committee members, we do go to community halls. We do invite political parties from province to say, look, come and disseminate what your policies are. What we've noted is that there are people that are really interested in what the political party has to offer, but I believe a lot of people still attach the political party to a persona. So when we come in is that we try and say, look, besides you looking at the persona, this is what the political party is trying to offer. So that's the challenge we've been trying to address. So we invite political parties. For instance, if they were having manifesto launch, I would like to make an example with the Economic Freedom Fighters. They always provide us with a link because we aren't able to move from here to Johannesburg. But we try and educate them to say, look, policies simply put is that what is the political party going to do for you? But we find that a lot of people, there's a thin line between understanding what a policy is and also differentiating between a political party and a persona itself.
That's very interesting. That's a very interesting look at things there. Well, we're taking calls 011-7140661. We have on the line Henrietta. I believe she is in Polokwane. Henrietta, good morning to you. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. I'm not from Polokwane. I'm in Atteridgeville, Pretoria.
Oh, in Pretoria. Thanks for calling in, Henrietta. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, voter education must not be event-based. It can't be something that only happens when there is elections. Then political parties want to go and start talking to the people about voting. It must be something that happens all the time. And political parties must be prepared to pay community radio stations for the airtime. They must put them in their budget and know that on a monthly basis, we go to this particular radio station and this is where we go and we teach people about elections, about public management.
Okay, then you see, that's an interesting one. But let me ask you this. Do you think that sort of voter education, if it happens on a continuous basis, that we'd be able to, even at community level, encourage young people to register and go out and vote?
It will encourage everybody. Because if you make it event-based like it's happening now, then it starts to become pothole-based. Yeah, they did not fix this pothole. We are not going to vote. Yeah, no, this party, this and that. Oh, no, this party is just coming on board just because there are elections, they want to be in government. It's that way. We need to move away from just being event-based. Political parties need to go out there and educate people of why they are in existence in the first place. Yeah, that's a very, very insightful one, input that you've given to us there. Henrietta speaking to us from Atteridgeville in Pretoria. We'll take more calls on 011-7140661. Lucky, can I bring you in on that discussion as well? I mean, Henrietta having called in there and said, well, we need voter education all the time, not just in the run-up to elections. Ewald has talked about just in, the platform that he operates and just his understanding of how people are viewing these political parties, the policies and solutions they put forward to the challenges of that community versus just focusing on the sort of personalities at the forefront of these parties. I mean, that personality versus manifesto discussion, what are you seeing where you are operating at Bethlehem?
Thank you very much. Well, to start with the voter education, that is very important. It is very important that we offer the voters information, especially the young ones, because that's the ones that we actually need. But even this year, I've been trying to just understand where they are standing. They're still not willing to vote. And that's because the reason for not voting is the reasons that you can just hear as a normal person, that these people need to be more educated about voting and the importance of it, and that it will also benefit them, of course. So, but regarding the understanding of political parties and the policies and, for the community to actually understand the reason for why they want to vote for the political party, usually they go for what can the party offer. all the time. They just want to hear what can the person say. Then they go for that. Whatever that is said, they can believe it at that moment, because most of the time it is said on a serious platform, and they go for that. They believe that. They don't want to check the policies of their political party, understand the political party better. And there's going to be more political parties this year, and they will be just voting for those political parties without understanding it deeper. So we still have a lot to do as community media. I believe also with the mainstream, but as community media, we have a lot to do in order to just sharpen the minds of our communities.
I must tell you, I find that very encouraging, that you say that, the consumer of media in South Africa really wants to hear what solutions candidates are putting on the table, and that we're not just getting distracted by personalities. I feel that really speaks to the thirst of South Africans to see their problems being solved, and a great opportunity then for political leaders to have that discussion with our people on the various stations and platforms that we have. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about strategies that perhaps our community radio stations can use moving forward to get more of those stories from the communities, to get more of those candidates onto those platforms, speaking directly to the communities as well as we get closer and closer to the general elections. We're back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we continue our discussion around just how community radio stations really can make a massive difference in disseminating information around the upcoming general elections directly to our communities, perhaps more so than what mainstream media is able to do. And we continue our discussion with all of our guests. And as we move towards finding solutions, for our community radio stations to be more impactful in that information sharing, let's quickly take some calls. Wandile is on the line in the Eastern Cape. Wandile, good morning to you. Thanks for calling. What are your thoughts?
Very good morning, Natasha, and your guest on SABC.
Yes, sir. It's Naledi, but okay, no problem. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Naledi. Sorry. Yes, I think the community radio stations are playing a vital role in terms of bringing the information to the people. But what I'm skeptical is that for political...
Wandile, are you there? Okay, we seem...
community radio stations, which are very vital.
Wait, Wandile, I lost you there for a second. Please start that thought again.
I will appeal to all those political parties to assist these community radio stations so that voters and taxpayers who are also preparing to go into the upcoming elections to get that particular information. The media and the community, in terms of, in particular, the language. The language is very vital because they are speaking the same language in that community. People and voters would understand what that manifesto is talking about. So I wanted to raise those important issues. Thanks very much.
Yeah, Wandile, I don't know if you're able to hear me, but talk to me about the community radio station in your area and how you rate how well they're doing in sharing election information with you.
Yes, there are political programs that are taking place in community radio station because my community radio station is in Tata, in Ngwane FM and UCR FM in Tata. They are playing an important role, but what is lacking is the resources. What is lacking is the transportation because they are depending on the advertisement in terms of getting that particular assistance. So I would appeal also to the government to assist them because they are lacking, and some of them, they are taking it as an internship program so that they can get more experience in terms of going forward to other national radio station. Okay,
yeah, interesting point. Thank you so much for calling in, Wandile there in the Eastern Cape. Shoeshoe, can I bring you in here? Because even during the break, you actually brought this up off air, and I think it's something that really should be touched on. Henrietta called in earlier, and one of the things she said was, well, we need these political parties themselves to plow money into these radio stations and say, well, let's support you so that you can give us a platform. I wonder if there's a moral sort of quandary there where we're speaking about political parties putting money into stations.
No, so I mean there is a provision in the electoral code for political parties to advertise themselves, particularly once the president has declared the elections or the election period. The challenge we have, and I do want to say, in fact, maybe ask a question, for all of these top political parties, how much money have they set aside for community media advertising.
Right.
So if they have a budget, how much of that money is going to community media for all of the political parties? Because we do know that they are going to have budgets for advertising on the platforms like your SABC and other bigger commercial media stations. So for us to build a sustainable sector is that we all need to agree that this sector is important and that we all need to invest in it. It will not help for political parties to only want to be heard or have their stories featured on local newspapers if they aren't investing there. And yes, outside of the election period, having political parties buy advertising, particularly for a small community media house, which has to manage all of those, does become challenging. But I do think that once we get into that period, political parties have to be intentional about the amount of money they are setting aside out of their budget that will go to the community sector, the small, medium broadcasters, as well as community print journalists. And I think we can then have a conversation about that. We can also engage the IEC to see how we answer some of these questions that have been brought through by Henrietta, or both calls coming, or one coming from Pretoria and one from the Eastern Cape, in what political parties can be doing without contravening any of their actions, and how do we capacitate community media broadcasters and content creators in knowing that they are operating within the ambit of the law, and that it is not something that is brown paper envelope, if you could say.
Yeah, and listen, and you mentioned callers from Pretoria and Eastern Cape, and the callers really are coming in from the different parts of our country. We've got Success on the line in Limpopo. Success, good morning to you. Thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts on this discussion?
How are you?
I'm well, sir. What are your thoughts?
I just had one comment here. Our community radio station, they don't have more resources, more especially during the coverage for a general election or any election. So we don't have even more resources to make a coverage. Some of a community radio station, they're still using their cell phone for coverage and stuff like that. So it's just only one comment.
Which is the station that you are that is closest to you?
We are from I'm at Skukuni.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that, Success. And, it's interesting to hear, of course, that people listen to the radio stations. They care about their radio stations, which I think is really, really quite powerful. Let's bring in now some strategies, right? Strategies about what we do moving forward. Emelita, I'm gonna bring you in here. I mean, what's your game plan for Radio Bushbuck Ridge as we get closer and closer to these elections? Any strategy, innovations, perhaps that you can share with your community radio colleagues?
Thank you again. Network coverage. Colleagues, what we aim in Radio Bushbuck Ridge, mostly we are using social media. I think a social media tool is very powerful. And sometimes we use a drama to encourage especially youth to go and vote. That is very important. We are using, and also we are posting on TikTok and also on Instagram, and especially social media is very powerful. So we are doing that, especially we are using, I remember when we were working together with a lottery. So lottery sponsors Radio Bushbuck Ridge to do drama, to make sure that encourage youth to come and vote. That's what we're doing, because if you're going on the field, most of the time, as I mentioned earlier on, says we are meeting some challenges. So we come up with a plan of no, let's use the drama to encourage a youth to go and vote. So we play drama every night in Radio Bushbuck Ridge as a program.
Great ideas, great ideas there. Ewald, what are you guys doing at Makhado FM? Some strategies to share?
Yes, thank you. Look, we realize that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, and also we are at the peak of AI. So we've incorporated a technological aspect to attract listeners to our station and also to disseminate information. What we do is that we select some of the shows that we believe we'll use as podcast. For example, we can take a political show, a current affairs show, we stream it live because we want to go to where the voters are. If we go to the social media platforms, we go to the internet, that is where we'll get them. That is where we'll leverage more because traditionally we have been on airwaves, but we're also moving towards AI, which means we also encourage presenters to also go live on the social media pages so that they can go to where the listeners are.
Moving with the times, I love it. Thank you so much for that. We're running out of time, but quickly, says Jabu, strategies that you're using.
Just like Ewald, with Radio Veritas, like I said, we use social media a lot. So it's live broadcasting and certain shows like talk shows. We will be giving voters education through talk shows. Like I mentioned yesterday, we already had a youth show where they were talking about elections. So
I promise not to steal any of these ideas. I'll try my very best. Yourself?
Yeah, we're also going to expand on our media footprint so that we can be able to reach whoever it is that we need to reach, because we have realized that our voice really matters and it makes a difference out there.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the era that we live in, right? The radio platform itself is the home, but it can live on so many other spaces as well. I mean, where do radio... Let's talk a little bit about what you'll be continuing to do as MDDA, and then, of course, talk to us a little bit about, what support is available. So for radio stations that are watching, media practitioners that are watching, what can you offer them?
Thank you, Naledi. We currently on our last leg of the elections training, and we'll be going to KZN in the month of Feb. So if there are community radio stations they're interested in participating, they should please go to the MDDA website and contact us, but we've got that plan already going. The MDDA continues to support the community media sector and the small, medium and commercial media sector, including print journalism or those who are publishing stories online. Right. We currently rolling out the funding or will be rolling out the funding for this year. I think also what's very important is perhaps a conversation that needs to be had with technology and fact-checking, particularly also for our community media stations, especially since they've said that they are using social media. Yeah. Maybe a conversation for us to have another day.
A really important one. Fact-checking so that we're not sharing fake news, and that's an important one, a big responsibility. The website, of course, for MDDA is www.mdda.org.za. They are, of course, the Media Development and Diversity Agency. We have, of course, been in studio with their CEO, Shoeshoe Qhu. Thank you so much for joining us. Jabulile Mazibuko, talk show radio presenter at Radio Veritas. We've also been speaking to Mpheni Tshivhase, news editor at Rainbow FM. Like him, Maseko, journalist at Bethlehem News Spot. Emelita Nyalungu, head of news at Radio Bushbuck Ridge, and Ewald Mokoditoa, who is the news editor at Makhado FM. I'm Naledi Mulo of Media and Society. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us, and have yourselves a fabulous Sunday.